What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. The book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below as usual. Kind of in a rush, so I'm going like in and out of the house, so it's going to be quick. Or these two are going to be, well, whatever. Let's just get into it. This title, we need to know our history. I was in a conversation on Facebook yesterday, and one thing bothered me about it, good conversation though. Somebody brought up Martin Luther King cheating on his wife. And I was like, y'all don't even know if that's real. Like, y'all got that from a movie. You know, and people's like, no, they got the tapes. And I'm like, ironically, these tapes just never ever came to surface. And these were tapes that J. Edgar Hoover swore he had to make Martin Luther King look like a hypocrite, and he was going to put them out if Martin Luther King accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. That's the history behind those tapes of him cheating. And somebody else posted, part of the tapes, right? Or what they said they had on tape. And I'm like, this is the thing about us as black people now. We don't really know our history, so we're making up stuff. The Martin Luther King thing being a cheater because of a Spike Lee movie. And now that's history. Now we believe that to be true. They said Malcolm X was gay. And now people tried to run with that one. And the problem with this is, with all of this information at our fingertips to look through history and decipher what's real and what's fake, right? I get you could be wrong. I can understand it. But what I don't get is believing a lie when the information is there. That's my issue with this. Same thing, people say, oh, Bill Cosby was raping women for years. And I'm like, he was giving women, quaaludes. And I'm thinking to myself, y'all don't know the history behind the 60s, 70s, and 80s when it comes to sexual revolution and quaaludes, because if you knew anything about like 60s, 70s, 80s, the Woodstock era, all the way up to the Studio 54 era, you would know. Cocaine was a recreational drug, right? And what people did with cocaine is quaaludes. Quaaludes was called the love drug. Like when people was in the 90s and early 2000s, they was going to those rave parties and they was taking ecstasy so they can get horny and have sex. That's what they was doing with quaaludes in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So when somebody had some quaaludes, it was about having sex. The free loves type stuff. But because we don't look at history, it's like, oh, well, I believe it because they just said it. So if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So some of these women that was in the 90s and the 2000s going to these raves and all these parties and taking ecstasy and having sex, 10, 20 years from now, they're going to go around saying they got raped. And y'all going to be like, no, it wasn't. And people going to go, y'all was slipping ecstasy in these women's drinks. That didn't happen, though. Because y'all don't know your history. Right? They was talking about, I was listening to people commenting, black men went to the civil rights movement to get access to white women. And I'm like, do you even know history to say something stupid like that? I mean, what went down in the civil rights era is documented. Just because you throwing in that black men wanted to mess with white women, that is not factual. They didn't boycott and march and change policies in America to have sex with white women. And for black women to do that, that's stupid because, the first thing to get passed as far as interracial dating was, Loving versus Virginia. White man, black woman. So it's like, you're going to just, see, and here's my problem. I like history. And I watched the generations older than me completely ignore history and then give you that dumb face like, I was there, but I forgot all about that, and I never told a soul. Like, how the hell, why wouldn't you tell somebody this? You know, my grandparents made sure that I knew history and the history of our people. So I wouldn't be fooled when something happens and it's like, I'm confused. The thing about when people was feeling like in Katrina that the levees were blown open, it actually came from a hurricane decades prior. Damn near 100 years basically, where white people actually put dynamite in the levees and blew the dynamite to flood the black communities. So it was just like a repeat of that story, but an explosion, a levee crumbling to water can sound like an explosion too, so it's not really a big deal. But back then, there was it's dynamite. This is why I say know your history, because even when we talk about Dr. King, going back a little bit, people forget he was like the most hated man in America. See, all y'all like, and I had to get on my parents about this. Like, y'all was kids and adults when this happened, when Dr. King was alive. And y'all remember he was the most hated man in America, but y'all gonna go around talking about he was the I Have a Dream man. Y'all just gonna skip everything else that happened after that. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Because you got people now, we went to school believing, I have a dream, and we ain't know the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Rosa Parks. They forget prior to Rosa Parks, and they forget Rosa Parks was an accomplished woman. One thing, but they forget, Rosa Parks was on the bus because previously they lynched a veteran in his uniform because he didn't want to sit on the back of the bus. So they put a woman in that position because they didn't think they wasn't gonna lynch a woman. Not for that circumstance. You get what I'm saying? So, but we don't know history, right? I remember when a great YouTuber, Mr. Superboy 222 talked about Emmett Till, and he said black people helped get Emmett Till killed, and people lost their minds. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. People would never do something. He had to put it up because people don't know the history of these things. And then people were shocked, like, I can't believe this. And it's like, come on. The information is out there. All you got to do is look for it. Look at it. You don't even look for it. Just type it up and then look at it. And the thing about gentrification and redlining and all this other stuff, this is not the first time this has happened. You should be able to see the signs of this stuff, but we don't know history. You get what I'm saying? We don't think about how our communities were purposely given less resources while we were paying taxes. And the taxes were funneled out of our communities to other communities, like in the same counties and parishes. And when our property value got to shit, and everything was built up over there, but it became overpriced and the taxes were too high, people moved back and bought, and people started investing in cheaper property and building on that, and they moved back, right? This is why you would see people in every major metropolitan city living like 30 miles out of downtown and then moving close to downtown and then moving back 30 miles away and moving back and forth because it's the same process. And they would always move to the shitty part of town. They'll build up the shitty part of town and then you go, I'm going to go out and live in the suburbs. And by the time you get there, it's overpriced and it's killing you. And then the property value goes down because now the people who always wanted to get away, they move those people out. And then they say, it's crime infested and this is bad, blah, blah, blah. And the property value goes down. And then you want to be by the white folks who moved closer to the city, but you can't afford to be there. But we don't know our history, which is a major, major problem, right? We don't know the history of our relationships. You know, I hear people making these stories of the black men were left and abandoned their families. So y'all don't know the history of men living in one place, you know, even after the Great Depression, living in one place and moving and working in another city and sending the money back home. And sometimes they did stay in that city, depending, because it was like seasonal work, like, you know, kind of like a construction worker. They'd go somewhere, you know, the seasonal agriculture work or construction work, or the same thing with the guys on the trains, you know. But y'all don't know that, you know, or the soldiers that went out. Y'all don't talk about that because y'all don't know your history. Or the Forgotten War, which is the Korean War, where people came back shell-shocked and that, you know, PTSD, but we didn't know it was that then. And then after that, the Vietnam War, when people came back Agent Orange, addicted to heroin, shell-shocked, you know, and mentally messed up and had PTSD. But, you know, people don't realize that was part of the welfare state. Well, some guys weren't in the home because of their mental issues, because a lot of people came back from Vietnam messed up. And that's part of what messed up certain families. And that's part of what had the underworld, the pimps, the drug dealers and all that. That's how they got involved in the nuclear family to begin with. Because those type of guys didn't go off to war. You know, we don't think about that. And I said this a long time ago. We don't think about Jim Crow, the Civil Rights era, the war on drugs or dumping drugs in the black community, and Vietnam were in the same years. You get what I'm saying? That was in the same time span. But because we don't know the history, we don't think about this type of stuff. And we just spew information. And it kills me because I think about this, you know, when people talked about what happened in the 90s with the super predator comment with Bill Clinton, people forgot about that. People forgot about when George Bush put up the crack on TV. This is crack cocaine and this is sweeping the country. It was a damn drug commercial. People forgot about that. You know, but if you say Marion Barry, oh, you know everything because it's a black dude, right? People think about, oh, you remember the OJ case, but you don't remember the information in the OJ case. So when they make these movies, it's OJ was guilty because we made a mini series about it. You'd be like, I told you he was guilty, but you know, when you saw what happened back in the day, you know what went down. It is what it is. I mean, people forget that the ex-wife was on drugs, and you know, people forget that she had relationships with drug dealers, like mafia drug dealers, and she didn't pay people, and they had numerous times had to hunt down OJ to pay for her before they killed her. But see, people forgot that. People forgot that's where she met the Ron Goldman. He worked in a restaurant where mafia guys and hitmen were at. But people don't know history, right? It is what it is. You know, people forget the things Ali said because they don't know. You know, people forget that Ali was hated, but he was so loved. He instead of Christopher Reeves, they thought about having him play Superman, and he was in a comic book fighting Superman. People don't know that stuff. You know what I'm saying? People don't think about all of the people who were influential and behind the scenes. We don't know all of the civil rights leaders because we don't know our history. You know, all people talk about is Malcolm, Martin, maybe Elijah Muhammad, maybe Rosa Parks, no Medgar. The Black Panthers come up sometimes, maybe Huey, not so much Fred, you know, not Stokey. You get what I'm saying? Bobby Rush, none of that. You know, all the political prisoners that was in, you know, has been in jail, Mumi Abu. You know, people don't talk about that because we don't, quote unquote, know the history. People don't talk about the gang culture It was an offshoot of the Black Panthers making gangs to protect the neighborhood. And they just turned into negative things. People don't talk about that because all of a sudden you don't know the history. You know, but if we're gonna comment and just make up stuff, the information is out there for you to get for yourself. Matter of fact, you can look at the stuff that I'm saying and tell me if I'm wrong. So, we out. Peace.